Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. And welcome to episode 259. When do you start writing after the holidays? This is a question that I don't ask myself every year any longer. And partially this is because I try to make the decision ahead of time as I enter into the holiday season as to when is my first day back at work. And I think one of the things that happens, particularly when we flip over into a new calendar year, is that that answer is pretty nebulous. I know for a lot of us, we have some time off. Our academic institutions give it off. We may be traveling. There's just things that are disruptions to the schedule. And so for me, it's really easy, and I definitely could procrastinate, very easy for me to just say, oh, well, I'll start writing tomorrow, or I'll start writing tomorrow. And I found that a couple of years ago that just making the decision ahead of time has really helped try to clarify some of those things. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do, and as we do our last couple of episodes for the Defend, Publish, and Lead podcast for the year, these are all things that I would pay attention to. We're going to work on some just real short practices if you happen to get a second to listen. But this would be one, is just to say, okay, let's look in January. What is the first day I'm actually writing again, or I'm actually officially like back on my writing project? You may still be writing over the break. Many dissertation writers, this is the time that they need to get some of it completed. Some of us have downtime between some of the major holidays and then say New Year's Day, and maybe that's a good time for you to get some work done. But others of us, we're just not doing any work. And I would say that I will be somebody that will get some work done, but I'm also not calling it an official day back to writing in case I don't. So that's also an option. Certainly, you can think through what are some ways that I might get some writing completed over the holidays. And we have some episodes on that, which I will link to our holiday playlist where you can check that out. But in any event, one of the things that I would try to think about is what would be the best day or the most likely day that I would be able to get some work done again. And so for a long time, one of the practices that we've talked about on this podcast is getting some writing completed the first day of class. However, the first day of class might not line up with the first day you actually want to write. So particularly with US institutions, sometimes the first day of class is not until the middle of January, but you actually have some time that you could be writing before then. And so what I'm showing on the screen, which you do not need to see if you're watching it on YouTube, you are actually looking at a page in my calendar from the week of January 5th through the 9th. And so one of the things that I have designated on my calendar is the 5th, January 5th is my first official day back at writing. I need to get some writing completed. Prior to now in January 5th, which is a considerable period, it's like 2.5, 3 weeks. I am going to get some writing done, like I said, but I am not going to say that's my first day. I'm going to actually commit that this is the first day. So knowing that a couple of things need to fall in place before I get to January 5th, and I blocked out, if you're not seeing the calendar, one of the things, I blocked out 2.5 hours. One thing about my spring schedule that is pretty nice is that I taught a lot of overload in the fall. You can hear lots of our episodes about that. And what has happened is I kind of lucked out that I have a lot of morning blocks free in the spring. That doesn't normally happen, but I just kind of lucked out that way. So what is showing on my calendar right now is a block between 9 and 11:30 on January 5th, January 6th, and January 7th. Right now, that's all I have in the week that I know about. I know I've got a lot of first week ramp up kind of things, which is also something you might be considering if your institution does a lot of, new programming for the new semester, or you've just got, you need to turn in your syllabi, or you have to do, required meetings. Those all can eat up that first week. But at least for me, I can see in there right away, okay, this gives me 7.5 hours. I like to do more like 10, but I'll just take 7.5 for this first week. And so one thing that is really nice is that I've actually put a marker on there that, hey, January 5th on Monday, if I open my calendar, it will show my writing time, which I color code in brown. I don't know why, I just do. But one of the things that I also wrote on it is that that's the first day. And I like that because that will tip me off that even if something is trying to vie for my attention, like, hey, you need to make this syllabus, or you have to, do this other thing. I want to be reminded that that's the first day that I said I was going to start writing again, and I'm going to do everything in my power to kind of hang on to that first day of writing. So it's possible that maybe I'll only get an hour and a half versus 2.5 hours that day. But one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to figure out whatever your first day is back to writing. So it could be the first day of class, but it doesn't have to be. Figure out whatever that day is, put it in your calendar, block it out, and then put a little note in there that that's your first day. So that's one of the things that I would do. But also as part of this practice, if we think about the first day of school in other contexts, maybe in elementary school or secondary school, or, in some other context, or if you were a graduate student and now you're a faculty member. The other thing that I will try to do is to set myself up pretty nicely for that first day with possibly some great things happening. So for example, on that first day, sometimes I will add notes in my calendar about a couple of other things. So maybe I don't want to do it in the library that day. Maybe I want to go to my favorite coffee shop or something like that. I'm going to make that decision now and just kind of write that in there. Other things that I will do prior to the first day, somewhere between now and January 5th, if January 5th is the first day, I will put a note on my calendar to spend a half an hour cleaning out my laptop bag. It's sad. There's, busted pens and pieces of paper and Post-its where I write notes and all kinds of things. Everybody's is probably a train wreck at this time of year, but I will have a note somewhere before January 5th to clean it out. I will also do a couple things. I'll restock some things in there to have me ready to write. What a pleasure would that be to actually go to get some writing completed and have all the things you need. For example, my hard drive, I keep losing the little connector cord thing because it's really tiny. One of the things I have on a list is just to buy another connector cord. I'm always going to need it. So, like for me, that's something that I know I want to get and I want to put in my laptop bag. I have tons of extra stringy headphones for my iPhone. They're not great and I don't always listen to music, but we have so many of them. I could just grab one of them in our house and like throw it in my laptop bag and I would be even more ready to write. Other things that I'm looking at are any articles that maybe I'm going to need to kick off that writing session. So I've got a folder of some articles I need to read. I can't remember which project they go with, but that's also a little bit of that getting ready to write for that first day. So anything that you can do to make it special, I think would be totally worthwhile. Other things to think about would be what do you need to kind of kick yourself off as a writer for the year? So it also in our holiday playlist, we've got all the holiday episodes and things like that. And I've mentioned before that Textbook and Academic Authors Association is one of our podcast sponsors. But something like that, if you can put anything into place, all of those writing things, either a membership or maybe that new thing that you need for your office, maybe that cushion so your chair is more comfortable, maybe a new chair if you're splurging. Whatever those things are, if you can get those in place prior to the first day, that will infuse that first day writing session with some new energy. Finally, as we close out, I also want to offer up that we'll be giving away a textbook and academic authorship membership for free. So if you are interested in getting one of those memberships, all you need to do, if you want to get one, is just email me at Christine@defendpublishedlead.com, and first person that emails me gets it. So you can kick it off with your holiday giveaway. We'll be doing that in all of our episodes. We'll be giving away different things towards the end of the year to get you ready to write. And as always, our writing hours are on special still at holiday pricing. So another thing you can think about to get yourself ready to write, or even for your first day of writing, is to book an hour with us. You could actually set up your very first day of writing and work with us on that first day to make sure that you get some writing completed. So if that's something that interests you, you can email me at Christine@defendpublishedlead.com, and happy writing this week.